Hello. Let me adjust the camera there. Can you guys hear me? Um, how is everyone? I hope everyone is doing well. This is a bit of a different live stream today because, as you can see in the title, it says no news. Well, that's not completely true. There is news, but I've spent the whole week trying to tune this little thing here that I got here, this Anbernic RG351P, and I've also had a bit of a play around with my Powkiddy V90, and I was making videos for that, and I decided, well, I'm just going to keep setting it up because I was having so much fun. So I haven't kept up with everything. There has been some news, but I would say it's not even that interesting this week. Xbox was at Gamescom. They showed off Forza Horizon 5, but that's about really all I saw that was interesting there. And they didn't show off very much that was new anyways. And I believe Sony might have had something at Gamescom as well, but if that happened, that would have been this morning, and I haven't checked my news yet. So I might be a bit late on that. In fact, maybe let me just have a look and see if I've just missed anything. I'm just going to type in Sony Gamescom. And it looks like it hasn't started yet, so it might be tonight or the next day for you guys. And also, I think on PC there was quite a bit of news with the Intel Architecture Day. I believe that was over last weekend. And again, I pretty much got this thing when that happened, so I haven't been able to catch up on that stuff. It's a 2.5 hour show, so it's almost like watching a full feature movie. So I need to set some time aside for that and watch that. It looks pretty interesting though. And just the week before, I covered the Intel Digi2, the graphics card. So I think that in itself, that's the product itself. So I think that should be enough to, I guess, be interested or get you guys interested in the Intel graphics cards, or at least keep you up to date with that sort of stuff. And then with the architecture stuff, a lot of that is very technical stuff, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to present that, if I will at all, because you may as well just go watch the snippets on the Intel website, and I think that would be a lot better. But of course, maybe another live stream down the track, we can definitely talk about that sort of stuff. But I haven't really kept up with that sort of stuff yet. Now, what we're going to do today, and actually, just quickly before we start the retro game stuff, there was a comment from a friend of the show, Greg. He asked, well, are you going to be doing more retro stuff? And the whole point of my channel has really been just talking about what I'm excited about. You know, a lot of people subscribed when I talked about the graphics cards last year when they were coming out, and also the PlayStation stuff, because I made a couple of PlayStation videos, and a lot of people are interested in the PlayStation stuff and PC stuff. They may not be interested in a lot of this retro stuff. However, I will say that at this point in time, because it's around August, we're not really at that stage, I guess, like October and November, where every day is going to be like gaming news. So I think this is a good time to cover this retro stuff anyways, while there's not so much happening. And also, I've got to say, it might be a down year for PlayStation and consoles in general, because it's the first year and there's just not a lot of news happening. The developers are still very busy making their games, and so there's just not very much news in terms of gaming. So I guess maybe around fall, Christmas sometime, there will be more news, but certainly I think it will start to pick up again next year and the year after in terms of gaming news. What else? Hello, Joel L. Will Intel Arc be expensive? Well, it's just going to be market price, right? I think that's how these companies set it, as you've seen with AMD and NVIDIA. AMD recently marked their price of the card, of their RX 6600 XT, at $379 MSRP, and they felt that was indicative of the current market price for that type of card. So that's how they're going to market it. And really, the MSRP doesn't matter too much, right? Because you're just going to be paying whatever street price there is. Like the RTX 3090 is 1500 MSRP, but it goes for like $2,500. In terms of Intel Arc, so I don't think they're going to make very many units because they'll probably just want to feel out the audience for the first round of cards, get people excited, get people interested. A lot of people, I mean, in terms of like the general public, if they can't get something, they feel like they want to, or they're more excited about it for something that they can't get. So I think Intel will probably play on that a little bit. There probably won't be as many units as expected. I think, you know, it will sell out, and we just won't know how many units it will be, but they will sell out. And I think Intel will play that pretty cleverly. In terms of stock, yeah, if it's successful, then they're obviously going to have more for the next time around. And Intel, it's going to be a long-term game for them. So I don't think they're just going to make a ton of units for the first round and then have to sell them really cheap and then make a lot less for the next round. I think they will build that slowly with the next few generations. And as you can see, like with the naming convention, they've already named 4 of these generations already. So they're going to, build this up. So anyways, in terms of the highest card, which was the 512 EU, that's going to be pretty much on par with the RTX 3070 Ti, around the RTX 3070. So that card's going to be like $499, $599, probably $599 by the way things are going. And all of the other cards will be priced accordingly also, and then that's just the MSRP as well. So in terms of the street price, you're looking at like $750 when it's in the low end of the market, like when stocks are decent. You're probably going to be paying like about $750 for that RTX 3070 top end Intel Arc card, and then maybe you're paying $1,000 when demand is very high and the supply is low. Okay, so without any further ado, I think we should jump straight into this because I got a ton of games that I want to show you guys on this Anbernic RG351P. Let me switch over to the other browser or the other window. Hang on, can I do this? Yes, I can. Okay, so it looks like that worked okay. You're still getting the sound coming through. And so that is the Anbernic RG351P. I put on a new operating system now. And it's so much fun to tinker around with this thing. If you guys might look at this and say, hey, this is just a little handheld console, and I'm not interested in portables or whatnot. But inside this is Linux, right? They've got Linux running on this thing. So there's a lot of custom operating systems that you can put on. One of them is Arc OS, and as you can see here, it says Arc OS right at the top. And so this is a thing called emulation station for the front end or the menu system. So inside it's running Arc OS. You play the games on RetroArch, which is the emulator, and then the front end or the menu system is the emulation station. And then there are different types of themes on top of this. So if I wanted to, I could change it to, say, I think it's UI settings, and then you can change the theme to something else. So that will give you a different look. Now there's I didn't really like this theme because it's cuts or crops a lot of the video and the box art. So I like the menu system here, but in terms of the games itself, it cuts a lot of it out. That's pretty cool how they cut the fonts or the title. Okay, so let me go back to the other UI. Um, let's have a look at another theme. Okay, so this is a pretty simple one. And then some of them, the box art and the video is a little bit small, so I didn't really like that. Whoops. Let me go back. But yeah, with a lot of the Linux emulation stuff, there are just a ton of options that you can tweak in them, which if you're somebody who likes to customize stuff, it's really amazing to go in there and you're able to tweak literally every single option that you can think of. Now, this is the Anbernic RG351P, and I'll be doing a buyer's guide or an introductory guide to these type of systems for people who, I guess, haven't seen these things before. So if you're new to all of this stuff, and I'm kind of just getting back into it after a couple of years, I think the guide will be a lot of help just to find your way around like the new systems that are currently out at the moment. Now, this thing plays PlayStation 1 games really well, some Dreamcast games, and PSP games are a bit dicey. Like it plays the lower end PSP games well. Everything comes back to how much power horsepower they've got. So this thing, it doesn't run 3D games very well past around about PSP level, and you'd be surprised actually. Like at some point, I thought like PSP was close to PS1, but PSP and PS1, there's quite a big difference in terms of the quality, in terms of how difficult they are to run. So this, now that was the Anbernic RG351P. That was, you can get it for 85. I got it for 90 with the full pack. So that came with a carry case and a Wi-Fi dongle. The Wi-Fi dongle was really important to me because I knew it would work out of the box then. So if I picked up another Wi-Fi dongle, then it may not work with this system. And I just figured, okay, I'm just going to get it with the full pack. So I paid 90 all up for this thing. And it comes in a couple of different colors. You can see here, so I picked up the purple color, and it comes with gray buttons and a white analog stick. So just be aware of that. If you do pick up the purple, it's not going to match up. And if you buy the white colored one, it comes with black buttons and they're all the same. So if I had to choose again, I would probably go the white black. There's also a full black where everything is black. So that is also another good system to pick up. But I've got a ton of black stuff already. I just recently picked up a Switch Lite that was the gray one. So I figured I better get some other color. But I quite like this color. The buttons and the analog stick don't match up, but that's okay. I don't really mind. I do mind a little bit. Okay, so that plays PlayStation 1 games. Now this thing doesn't play PlayStation 1 games. This is the Powkiddy V90. I'm going to turn this on. Hopefully I have enough battery. And you can also change the operating system on this, I believe. You can change, this is running the NX Hope system, and you can put on another operating system on this. All you do is stick in the micro SD card into here, or you load up a operating system, plug it into there, and then you can use another operating system, which is totally amazing, right? Like you can get a system like this where you can customize literally everything. Now, I would say that the only downside to this thing is the plastic shell, the case. It's just like a toy. Like they didn't spend any money on this. They spent the money on the processor inside and the screen. Now the processor isn't very good. This plays up to SNES and Mega Drive games. Well, literally anything can run SNES and Mega Drive games these days. However, at least you can get up to that level of performance. So there's still a ton of stuff you can play. Like you can play GBA games really well. You can play some Neo Geo games, not all of them. But that's probably about the limit of this. And PlayStation, you're really pushing the system. You could probably play some I guess like puzzle games. But aside from that, I wouldn't really try to play anything from PlayStation on this thing. It does come with these shoulder buttons, just in case you wanted to try out PlayStation, and it does come with some PlayStation games preloaded. But I tested 3 of them and they didn't work. So I'm sure there are a couple of there that do work. But yeah, I wouldn't bother about PlayStation on this thing. Okay. Now, let's. So what we're gonna do is oh, okay, just really quickly. So if you want to, if you're interested, then what you would do is you would go to the. Let me see if I can go to there, the browser. Okay, here we go. Okay, so AliExpress, the Powkiddy V90 runs for about $40. Now I did say $30 because I did buy it for $30, and you might be able to find some deals. Like for example, this one here, $25. It's significantly cheaper. I don't know if they're just having a sale or whatnot. This one says it's only 9 sold. So you're going to have to take your chances if you want to buy a cheaper one. Now this one is 32 and has 30 sold, so that sounds okay. But it looks like this one is the Powkiddy official store and is selling for about $38. So sometimes they actually lower the price just to get some sales through. So that may be why they're doing it to begin with. But I was able to buy it for $30 from my local, I guess, website, the shopping website, Shopee. Now, the Anbernic 351P, that one runs for about $90. And you should be able to find it for roughly about $90 on AliExpress. There is an official Anbernic store called Anbernic Official Store. You can just buy it through there. $95 here for the RG351P. It might even come with like a case or a few other gifts and things, screen protector. And use the one that you see here for $130. So that one's going to be the RG351M. So that has the metal shell, and also it has Wi-Fi built in. So you wouldn't need this Wi-Fi dongle. Now, if you if you get that, then both systems are basically are identical inside. It's just whether you want it to come with a plastic shell or metal shell. I think the plastic shell is fine. It's a very good quality plastic. So it feels like if you're holding a GameCube controller almost with this type of plastic. That's what it feels like. Okay, let's run through some games. Okay, let me get back to the other camera. Okay, so I'm gonna try out the lower end systems on the Powkiddy. And I know you guys might have seen my video on the unboxing already. And you might want to see a bit more of the Anbernic. So I'll just play a couple of games on the Powkiddy, and then we'll move on to the Anbernic RG351P. Because I think most people will want to buy the Anbernic RG351P over this. If you're just going to buy one system, yeah, I would definitely go for something like the Anbernic. It lets you play PS1 level games. You can play N64 pretty well. So I would probably go for that. I would just put like the $30 you want to spend on that on the other thing. Okay, so we've got the ticker scroller, and I think I'm supposed to be playing Mega Man 2. I was going to play Mega Man 2 on the NES. I think it should be on this system. Let me see if there's... Okay, so they don't have any NES games. So you got to put your own... Oh, Famicom, right. Okay, so... I think the system is stalled. Oh, here we go. It normally doesn't take that long. Okay, so we were gonna play... I think we were gonna play Mega Man, so hopefully they got Mega Man in here. Rockman. And doesn't look like they got Mega Man 2, so I'll just play Mega Man 1. And the Mega Man games were games that I wanted to... I never played the Mega Man games before, so So this is why this is why the retro games are so fun. Whoops, because there's going to be a ton of games that, and I didn't realize it was this hard. These guys are evil. Okay. Oh, and you can't even shoot up. So this kind of reminds me of like Contra. And the thing I find about this is $30, okay? But it feels very pick up and play. Like you could have this on your desk, just pick this up and play it anytime. Hey, codename COD. So the thing about the metal one is that it's another $30 or $40 more. So is that worth it for you? And I think that really depends, because I find that I don't know how anybody beat this game, especially when you can't even shoot up. Also, I'm sorry, the camera is going to go from light to dark quite a bit. There's not really a whole lot I can do about that. Um, but I will try and play some games that are a little bit darker so that it won't look as bad. And this game is so balls hard that I'm not even sure it's really that fun to play. But at least there's a life bar and you don't actually die straight away. Oh my goodness. Oh. Hello, bro, please. Hello, codename COD. And so I'm having a difficult time looking at the chat and playing Mega Man. Not the exactly the best game to look at the chat. Oops, I think I died. Oh no, all the enemies come back. Okay, so hello, bro. Please, Ray Gracie plays. Ray Gracie plays, please, I beg you. I'm not sure what you're talking about, mate. Oops. Okay, I think that's gonna be bad enough of this game. Okay, so that's Mega Man 2. Runs great on the Powkiddy V90, which costs $30. I'm gonna get out of this. And so it's very easy. You press the home button and then you just press exit. And I will be putting on my own operating system on this. I just haven't done it yet. So this is what it comes uh in like this is what it comes as in stock. I quite like the I quite like the operating system or the menu system that they got here. It's very easy to get around, and even if you, I believe even if you change it to a different operating system, you'll get a very similar type of menu. That's what I saw from other people's videos anyways. So, SNES, I wanted to play Super Metroid. I hope they've got that here. And they've already loaded this up with about 250 games. Now, the thing is, I don't really like it when they put on so many games. So, on my new operating system on the other device that I've set up, I've really limited to about 100 games because it just takes too long to scroll through everything. So, the other game I wanted to play was Castlevania 4. Here we go, Super Metroid. Let's see how this runs. So as you can see, the camera, if there's a dark screen, it makes everything brighter. And if there's a bright screen, it makes everything darker, which is kind of annoying for filming these retro videos. Um, Claudio, hello, hello. How's Portugal going for you? Neha Shukla, give him 30 subs. I don't think that was original version of Mega Man 2. Yeah, that's not Mega Man 2. That was Mega Man 1, but it's called Rockman. I think in Japan they call it Rockman. Does it have any Atari 2600, 5200 games? Let me have a look. I'll just quickly get out of this. Well, the thing is, like, you can definitely add in your own Atari games, but I don't think it loads up the Atari games. It goes back as far as the NES and Game Boy. So these systems here, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, the NES, the SNES, Game Gear, Mega Drive, and Master System, they play great. So those 8 systems are amazing. Wonder Swan, you'll be able to play that as well. PC Engine, that as well. And then you'll be able to play some Neo Geo games. And that would be about it. But even still, like, this is literally your GBA or your SNES device, which could play like a couple of hundred games for $30. Joust. Yeah, I don't remember it. I remember the name Joust. Phillips, hey, yeah, too many games is a nightmare. Yeah, it becomes super annoying to scroll through that every time to look for the game that you want. So I found that I'd rather keep it to like 50 to 100 games. Can it run Yoshi's Island or any FX game? Okay, so I don't think it runs Yoshi's Island very well on this. Like, it needs some tweaking. So, but you can get it to run okay after you tweak it. I just haven't looked it up yet. But I was gonna play. I was going to play Super Metroid. Um, and after I play Super Metroid, I might have a look at Yoshi's Island if I can find it here. And I actually don't mind this cutscene because now I get to actually read the chat. Um, Man, do you guys remember this was such a thing of the past? Unskippable cutscenes. There's actually a lot of them in retro games. I was playing Shenmue on Dreamcast on the Anbernic RG351P. It runs amazing, by the way. It's unbelievable that system can run Shenmue, and it runs it so well. Like, the graphics are so clean. However, there's unskippable cutscenes, which really bug me because the first 20 minutes of the game is cutscenes. Okay, so I can't skip this. I didn't realize that couldn't skip it. So feel free to say something in the chat, and I will try and respond. Okay, hopefully we can get into the game here. Codename Cod, you said you were in the UK, so what time is it over there? It must be at least 2, 3 a.m. Unskippable cutscenes just after a respawn point is epic. Yeah, happened all the time. Happened all the time. Especially in games where you couldn't beat a boss and then you'd have to watch that stupid boss intro scene. It happened a lot. I do all emulation on an old laptop with Intel HD 4000. Codename COD, exactly. That's a great point that I want to bring up. And it's like, well, why would I want to spend $30 on this or $90 on the Anbernic RG351P when literally everybody has some sort of device that can just emulate most of the games up to like PS1 anyways. 4:30 a.m. Hey, young man, you should be in bed. um, so yeah, the thing is like, it's not really that necessary to get this. I would almost say this is some sort of like luxury device, and a lot of the retros, a lot of the retro channels on YouTube, and they get all of the systems. So it's almost as if they are curious about the hardware, they're curious about how it plays the games, and they just want a lot of different systems to play on. So for me personally, I just want one system. Well, at least right now I do anyways. Maybe I'll get bitten by the retro handheld bug and I'll buy more systems. But I personally, I wasn't going to pick this Powkiddy thing up. And I was just going to run with this Anbernic device. But I thought I would get one more device for the channel just so I can have something to compare it with, because that makes making the videos a little bit easier if I can compare it to something else and kind of give people a choice of options. Uh, Great point. Okay, well, I better go through all of these points. So 4:38. I don't know what you guys are doing in the UK, whether you guys are vampires or whatnot, but that is really late. The latest I ever got to was like maybe about 2 a.m. and then I'm completely wasted by then. Battery life, Powkiddy versus Anbernic. So yeah, this Powkiddy has a really small battery, Claudio. So this has a 1000 milliamp hour battery, and this one is 3500 milliamp hour. So you could get, apparently with this Anbernic device, this purple one, you could get like 4 or 5 hours out of this, and it says up to 6. I don't think you can get quite up to 6. This 1000 milliamp hour is probably good for 2 hours of battery. Now you can actually change the battery out here. I won't lift up, or maybe I will lift up the lid. You can put in a phone battery, an old phone battery, so you can find those, and you can upgrade it to like say a 1500 milliamp hour battery. You might get another hour out of it, but personally it doesn't really bother me because this is not my main system anyways. The thing about this system is that it just feels super fun to like just have a throwaway console somewhere that you just pick up and play for 10 minutes. I don't recommend everybody get this. If people get one system, it should be something that's just going to play a lot of stuff. So it would probably be the Anbernic RG351P for now, but obviously there are going to be other devices. I what am I supposed to do with this guy? Um, yeah, so the handheld, I feel like this is, even though this is $30, but that one is $90. So it feels like these are luxury devices because I could just emulate this on my PC. I wouldn't have to spend $90. However, because you get controls, you get that nice form factor. Um, so for me, it feels like these are kind of like luxury tinkering devices. I don't know if you can see that, but there might be some frame skip there. Uh, so it's still kind of struggling a little bit. What I This is kind of amazing that these games were so inventive back then. there's definitely some frame script now because so it's not running SNES perfectly, which is interesting because I figured this would probably run SNES fine. Maybe I'll try with it. Whoops. Um, so there was a lot of cutscenes and things like that, but you can kind of see that Metroid runs okay. I'm gonna move on because I think we're about half an hour already, and there's a ton of other stuff that I want to get through. So that's gonna be it for this Powkiddy. We're gonna move on to the Anbernic RG351P. I think if you want to see more videos, or if you want to see more games about this, I do have another video on my channel. It's the unboxing video for the Powkiddy V90. I think this is kind of cute. I don't recommend it for everyone, but I did want to pick up something else for the channel. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off. So not the best demonstration because there are just too many cutscenes. And also Mega Man was a bit hard to see. Okay, so to turn this off, you go press the R1 trigger on the back, and you go down to power, and you got to turn it off. So it's running Open Dingus. We might come back to it in a second. Let's play with this thing because this is the star of the show, really. I'm going to give it a bit of a wipe because got a bit of dust on it. Put a screen protector on, so when you buy the full pack, it comes with a screen protector. Now, what was I going to play after? You know, it would have been good to play Game Boy games on the Powkiddy actually, but let me show you Game Boy in this because I've set up some shaders for it already. So I think I was going to play Link's Awakening if I can find it. Is it this one? Okay. So we're running a Nintendo Game Boy game. Let's quickly get into this. Now I was just curious because Link's Awakening is actually on Switch. So you can get it running with just black and white, or you can get it running with the green colored like Game Boy emulator, the green color Game Boy screen that they had originally. And I don't know if that's going to be that great to show you guys. Because I think it's going to get blown out a little bit. Now, one thing about this device is that it's a 3.5 inch screen, and some people might think, well, I'm used to 5, 6 inch iPhones, but honestly, it's not too bad on this. For some reason, I think it's because these games were already made for handhelds, anyways, and then also the resolution was quite low on all of these older devices like the NES and the SNES. They're down to like 240p, so it's not like that. A lot of the text isn't very small anyway, so they feel quite comfortable to play all of these. As you can see, like when you're playing a Game Boy game, the text is readable on a small screen. And the thing is, like when I was playing on the Switch, even though they had a 5.5 inch screen, some of the text is really hard to read because they made it as a 1080p game. So they figured, I'm going to put this on the TV, and I want to put a lot more information on the screen. And then when they bring it down to a handheld size, everything is so small to read. Now, I think I need to pick up something. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm gonna play it through the camera now. Okay, well, I'm gonna finish up with this because I have no idea how to play it. I never played it before. Let's move on to something else. Now, the Anbernic RG351P, this has a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is the same as the Game Boy the Game Boy Advance aspect ratio. So everything is going to look really nice for Game Boy Advance games. There's no letterboxing or pillar boxing involved. And you don't have to do too much to make it look good. So hopefully, I can get straight into the game for this. Somehow I don't think so. I think they're going to do some sort of tutorial. Oh, poop. Oh, damn it. So let's just... As you can see, the Game Boy Advance games, there are still plenty of games that actually are very decent looking, and it would be something that you would play on a PC these days. So, because I have this system, this is actually the most excited. The Game Boy games or the Game Boy Advance library is kind of like the most excited that I am in terms of trying to test out, because I actually had a Game Boy Advance when I was younger. I just didn't have any games for it because I just felt like paying like $40-50 for a handheld game at the time didn't really, yeah, it just felt kind of expensive at the time. So I didn't have very many Game Boy Advance games, even though I had a Game Boy Advance. So I had 4 or 5 games, and that was about it. So we're gonna hit one dude, and we're gonna get out of this game. I wish. Yeah. So Okay. Um, the reason I quit out of it was because I haven't played Advance Wars. I haven't played Super Metroid. It might actually be a good idea to actually play games that I'm familiar with. But let's move on to the next system that I want to show you guys. Um, so let's try Sega Genesis. And I was going to play Sonic 3 now. I kind of picked all of these games that I haven't played before, but it can't be that hard to play Sonic 3. I finished Sonic 2 anyway, so. But I did want to see how some of these other titles ran, and all of the GBA games I would expect to run perfectly fine. Genesis games I would expect to run perfectly fine in this as well. Well, I guess this doesn't run fine. Maybe there's some issue with the ROM. So Sonic 3 doesn't work well. Uh, well, I played Sonic 2 and I beat Sonic 2, so let's just play that instead. Um, you can't really chill out playing on a PC, so I don't really see them as a luxury. So the background here is a bit different. It's not supposed to be red. So maybe this is a weird ROM. So actually my son was playing this and I was wondering why he was pink. Uh, Now I don't have the down spin. I don't know why. So see if we can just finish this stage anyway. So this is a weird mod of Sonic 2. I don't know what it is. um, so I'm gonna have to change out that ROM. Uh, I think you guys have seen Streets of Rage 2 like 100 times. Let me try Streets of Rage 3, see if that works. Yeah, that might have been Sonic 1 because the stage was very small. Codename COD, is that right? You can just steal stuff in Zelda Link's Awakening. Now, this is one game I haven't been able to beat. So I beat Streets of Rage 1 and 2, but I never felt like. Uh, I never felt like I. Yeah, I didn't play this enough to beat it. But when I was younger, I was all about these beat 'em up games. Okay, so I think you know what Streets of Rage looks like. Let's play some more difficult games. Okay, so let's play Sega Dreamcast. Now, this is amazing. So, let me show you Soul Calibur. And this runs smooth as silk, which is unbelievable given that this has a RK3326 or Rock Chip 3326 inside with 1.5 gigahertz speed. And the other thing is you can see that the text is perfect. Um, it doesn't look distorted or anything, and it's very, very clear. Uh, so I don't think it normally takes this long. Let me. Now this ran perfectly yesterday, so maybe I have to just start this one instead. So I don't really know how to play this game, but I guess there's like some sort of horizontal attack, vertical attack. Codename card Soul Calibur 2 on GameCube via Dolphin is a lot better. Yeah, I'm sure it is. The Dreamcast one is pretty good as well. There's some sort of like mission battle system here, which is a good single player mode. And obviously on Soul Calibur 2, there's also a really good mission battle mode as well. Claudio, that's exactly right. This is going to run GameCube. Sorry, this won't run GameCube. It just runs PS1 and some Dreamcast, not everything. So don't take this as like this is going to run all the Dreamcast games. But as you can see, it's a lot of fun to play Dreamcast on this. All of the text is really nice. And it kind of gives you a taste for that level or the PS2 level quality of graphics is kind of like a bit of a teaser to that level. This isn't quite PS2 level, but once we get PS2 emulation, that's kind of my dream, really. Because there's a lot of games on the PS2 that's not really available on the GameCube, even though you're probably going to get GameCube emulation first on these devices. There are games like GTA 3 that just not on GameCube. But yeah, the few games that you can play on this kind of give you that taste of that level, which is really exciting, especially on a device like this. Hey. So another game that runs really well is Virtua Fighter 3TB or Virtua Fighter 3 Terabyte. Great survival mode on that Dreamcast when I can get the 30 wins. That's a lot of wins. The one thing about fighting games for me is that it's got to have a good single player mode. It can't just come with an arcade mode because that's really not enough, or just the training mode. Uh, okay, let me see. So I don't really know how to play. I don't really know how to play Virtua Fighter. But you can see it looks pretty nice. What? Okay. So there is a little bit of slowdown that you can see, but honestly, it's fine. It's fine. Like compared to some of the other slowdown I've seen in other games, it might only be a problem if battles get heated. Uh, but generally, I would say this is okay. This is really supposed to emulate Dreamcast, anyways. So this is a bit of a bonus. Oops. I had Soul Calibur 2 on the PS2 and I never ended up playing it much. I had a go like for the first weekend or so and then I kind of dropped it. I really regret it because like I think it was a pretty good game. Uh, and it had a fun single player mode. Oh yes. Ah no. Whoops. So we'll just play till the end of this round, and then I will get out of it. I'll show you one more Dreamcast game after this. Maybe two, because I want to show you one where the performance is a bit iffy. Hello, Z Rakesh. Looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2. Well, I need to finish Breath of the Wild 1 first. I haven't really started. I had the Wii U version and I played like 10 hours. And then I kind of dropped it. And now I don't have my Wii U. But I did pick up the Switch version of Breath of the Wild. So I need to play through that. But I'm very busy with Dragon Quest 11 right now. So I need to beat that first. Okay. Yeah, Codename Card. There's just too many PlayStation 2 games. There's just too many PlayStation 2 games. Literally everything came out on PlayStation 2. Uh, I mean, of course, the Nintendo games didn't, but when I had all three systems. I had the PS2, Xbox, uh, and the GameCube, and I didn't have very many GameCube games for it. Okay, so here's one where the performance is a bit iffy, and then but it gets better in Crazy Taxi 2. So Crazy Taxi doesn't really run well, but Crazy Taxi 2 runs okay, which is really weird because you would expect Crazy Taxi 2 to be more performance intensive. Do I have a rough idea of when 2022 will release? Okay, so I'm not going to give a very good answer, but it'll come down to a couple of things for Breath of the Wild. Um, so I did read some things about Breath of the Wild where they said it was already very advanced. So, which I don't quite believe because I need to turn this down because I can't hear myself talking. Um, which I don't really believe because they didn't show very much at all in their Nintendo presentation this year. I don't think it's very advanced, but if it is, it could release in March, but I doubt it. So I think it's probably going to be next year, Christmas time, or around like, October sometime. And then they're going to release the Switch Pro at the same time. So they'll release the Switch Pro and then they'll release Breath of the Wild 2 and it'll be available for both the Pro and also for the regular Switch. But obviously with the Pro, you can play that at 4K. So that will be the selling point of the Breath of the Wild 2. And that will get people to upgrade their systems again. But they seem to like to do that with the Zelda release because they know that the hardcore audience will pick up a new system to play Zelda. So, whoops. Oh, right. So, all right, okay, let me focus on the game here. Um, okay, let me play that again. Man, I used to put a lot of money into Crazy Taxi at the arcades. I probably could have put like $20, $30 into it. Probably could have just bought the game anyway. But I ended up buying this for the PlayStation 2, and at the time, Crazy Taxi came out when it was still very early on, and they still hadn't resolved a lot of the problems or the graphical problems with the PlayStation 2, and so there was a lot of anti-aliasing and a lot of shimmering issues. So you can see there's a bit of slowdown already, and as you drive further into the city, there's just a lot of issues. So this is why I say like Dreamcast doesn't work so well on this system, and for me this is not playable. Like there's a problem with the game. Whoops. It also has a weird uh, driving system. Like I'd prefer if the brake actually reversed, but I guess they wanted to make it a little bit more difficult. So there's going to be a lot of games like this, and I think yeah. So Dreamcast only very select games work. Okay, so I hope I showed you Crazy Taxi enough. And let me get the door. Okay, I'm back. Um, Caching, yeah, it's I guess something to do with the fact that you have to load up the city in this game, and it just can't do it. Uh, at least I think in this game anyway. Could be something else. I'm just taking a guess. Now, uh, but I'll just run through some of these games. So Daytona runs okay. Daytona runs okay. Metropolis Street Racer runs okay. Sega GT is a touch slow. I guess some people won't mind, but it looks like it's running like say 20 to 24 FPS. Sometimes it'll run at 30 FPS. That's what it looks like. So it's still kind of playable. It's quite smooth actually, but I think that a lot of people probably won't want to play it. They will, if they're desperate, they might just play it on their PC. Shenmue runs perfectly from what I played so far, which is really surprising because well, I haven't actually got out of the house. So I guess maybe once you get out of the house, then it will be a little bit more problematic. But in the early scenes, it seems like it's running okay. Sonic Adventure runs okay. A little bit of slowdown. Tennis 2K2, bit of slowdown there. Doesn't run really well, especially for this type of game where you need arcade reflexes. Virtua Fighter 3TB runs pretty well, and Virtua Tennis is the same as Tennis 2K2. So as you can see, there are a few games there, but not really enough to actually say that this system plays Dreamcast. It's kind of like a little bit of a taste of what you might expect with a more powerful system. Okay, so Neo Geo, everything runs fine. I'm not gonna play any Neo Geo games because I think you've seen most of the games anyway, and I'll just be playing a fighting game. So let's play PlayStation games and also PSP games, and then I'm going to finish off the stream there. So let's play a couple of PlayStation games here, and I think I was going to play Tony Hawk. Now, Tony Hawk 2 on Dreamcast doesn't run that great, but it runs perfectly fine here. So I would just play it. If you really want to play Tony Hawk, play it on PlayStation. And yes, the graphics aren't as good, but at least it will be a smooth experience on PlayStation. If it actually loads. Hey, Senor Tonaste, Retroid Pocket 2 the best. Why is Retroid Pocket 2 the best? Let me know in the comments. Wow. Finally. Okay, yeah, because I'm interested. I'm curious. I'm not having a dig at Retro Pocket. I even looked at the website yesterday because I was curious, like if whether I should get one or not. But because it runs kind of close to this, I'm probably not going to get a Retro Pocket. I'm not here to collect all the systems. I just wanted something to play my retro games on. And and previously I had a GPD Win 2, which I was going to play my retro games on, but I guess because I sold that, I didn't really have any other handheld system. I could have modded my Vita, but for quite some time there, you couldn't actually mod your Vita and actually turn off the system. You had to keep it on to keep the firmware or the hacked firmware on. So that was pretty much a no-go for me. Although I do believe that's changed since then. The Soldier Boy version, oh my goodness, I saw that. I was like, hey, wait a minute, this looks like the Retro Pocket. Or there's a Game Boy version of the Retro Pocket too. Whoops.
Daddy, look. Inside have a hamster. Look, I can put a hamster inside.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
I,
Yep. So I had Tony Hawk 2 on the PlayStation. I didn't have a PlayStation, but I had a PlayStation 2, which I played my PlayStation 1 games on. And I had Tony Hawk 2. I had Tony Hawk 2 and 3 and 4, and I sold them. I stupidly sold them all. And yeah, I was kind of dumb for doing that. I figured at the time, oh look, I'm just going to get the next Tony Hawk, so I can just sell the, you know, uh, the previous version of Tony Hawk. So I think this version plays perfectly well. And the funny thing is, I was going to buy the Switch version of this. Now I'm wondering whether I should because I got it already. But yeah, I'll probably end up getting the Switch version. Surprisingly, like the Switch version doesn't even look that good, you know? The Switch version doesn't even look that good. Like, I think this one is kind of serviceable. The Soldier Boy version, are you kidding me that it's $300? Are you kidding? That's got to be a joke. Because you can get that for $80. Okay. Codename card Tony Hawk 3 on GameCube. Amazing to emulate. Exactly. Yeah. I'm so desperate to get or even Dolphin running on one of these systems so I can play Tony Hawk 3 properly and Tony Hawk 4. Um, I had it on PlayStation 2, but I think the GameCube version would be just fine. It would be exactly the same. Okay, I oops. I believe Gran Turismo 2 would probably be one of the harder games to run on the PlayStation. So let me show you guys that. Uh Z Rakesh. Is that how you spell is that how you say your name? Tell me how you say your name in the comments. Switch version is remastered. Yeah, it's remastered, but it still runs at 30 FPS. So it's like, what's the point? Like, give me 60 FPS. I will probably still end up getting it just because I want it on the Switch. Uh, GameCube version, no interlacing. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so the buttons are all different. So this is the X button, and that selects games in PlayStation. But for any Nintendo games, the A button is to select. So it's easy to get confused when you're playing with an emulation system. Now, I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, but I made a post a little while ago about WRC9 on the Switch, and it just plays absolutely terrible. Like, it's so hard to control the car. And the thing is, okay, I need to go back and check these PS1 systems. Hang on. I need to. Okay, sorry, I had to get the door. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so the thing with the WRC9 on the Switch is that it was uncontrollable. The tracks were very narrow, it'd fall off the edge all the time, and it was very hard to control the car. And, so I thought, okay, was this what it was like when there wasn't enough processing power? Like, if we played PlayStation 1 games, is that how games played? Like, where it was very hard to control cars and stuff? Because I do remember, like, some games, uh, like, say, on the Super Nintendo, where racing games, it was kind of difficult to control the car. And you really, like, even, say, Outrun was kind of hard to control. But I think, no, that's not true. In something like Gran Turismo 2, it controls very well. Like, it's not hard to keep the car on the road. Whereas on WRC 9, if not really made for like Twitch or arcade handling, because if you overcompensate, you kind of lose the car and you get thrown off the track. And it was very frustrating. Um, so that game is a bit of a dud, to be honest. Uh, and the thing is, I had WRC7, which therefore I was really happy with that game on the PC. It ran fine, played really well actually, and that was a game where I put up against Dirt Rally as just as fun. Like, it was hard, but it wasn't ridiculously hard like Dirt Rally was. And so I quite like WRC7 on the PC, so I bought WRC9 on the Switch, and my god, WRC9 is really bad. It's maybe WRC9 on PC is also terrible. So I'll have to play WRC9 on PC at some stage. I'm sure now that WRC10 is going to be coming out soon, WRC9 will be fairly cheap, and then I'll just get that for like $10 and then try that out. Whoops. The thing with... How do you reverse the car? Okay, well, I'm way behind now. So maybe, whoops. Exit. Claudio, so you've played WRC9 on PC. Well, I might go and have a look at some videos of WRC9 anyway on YouTube, because I just can't believe how bad it is on Switch. It's almost unplayable. Let's pick another. Oops. Um, so I picked the same color car, but I didn't mean to. Codename COD, you still play Dirt Rally? Yeah, I don't play Dirt Rally as much anymore, but I played a lot of it in the past. Whoops. How do I... Here we go. And Dirt Rally was a tough game. I got about halfway through the game, I think. I got to like... in the career, there's like 5 levels, and I got to like the 3rd level. But it was very hard after that. It was almost as if like as soon as you're losing time, there was no way of coming back, and you could push harder, but then you'd probably have an accident. So it got very hard. Or maybe I was just playing it wrong. Whoops. But Gran Turismo 2 runs perfectly fine. So all the PS1 games, I would say generally all the PS1 games run really well. Now, they're not the prettiest of games. It's still very early in terms of 3D gaming. So that's kind of just something that you're going to have to accept. I wasn't the biggest PlayStation 1 fan anyways, but I'm happy to see some better quality 3D games, especially like if you browse through the entire library of racing games anyways. Like if you're coming up from SNES racing games to something like this, then yeah, this is 100 times better. And the thing about Gran Turismo is that I believe that the older games are actually a little bit easier. Gran Turismo 1 and 2, they're a little bit more lenient. So I think it'll be easier to get things like golds in the licenses. Whereas, man, when you're playing the later games, it gets really difficult. So it accelerates and brakes pretty smooth. Um, so generally, I find that it plays pretty nice. Normally, I would be playing in the first-person view. You really have to kind of feel the car. It's a little bit harder to feel the car. You're playing like this, not natively. But I think it emulates it well enough. And I don't know, maybe like the PS1 version only ran at 30 FPS. Maybe this is running a bit higher than that. Now, I think you can put the FPS counter on, so I might do that at some stage just to see what it's running at. No. Codename Card, yeah, I think the performance is pretty good. You can play up to PS1 games, as I showed you, and every PS1 game that I've tried has worked out pretty similar to this in terms of performance, so it runs really well. It's after PS1 that is the problem. And then, of course, the other thing is there are all these devices coming out all the time, so I wouldn't feel like it's something where if you didn't get this, then you may regret it. There's just going to be new stuff coming out all the time. I think there's a new Anbernic device coming out called the RG351P. I guess given that code name, that's probably going to have like a 5-inch screen. And there's been a leaked video of it running God of War on PSP. Now, that might be a good segue to move on to PSP games, and these don't work really well. So they take more performance, or they take more hardware required than PS1 games. So most of these games don't actually run really well. So, for example, let me show you a game that does run okay, and that's BlazBlue. And so games like 2D games and puzzle games, simpler games, I would assume Luminous would work okay on the PSP emulator here. But everything else really probably doesn't. Like all the racing games that I tried, which were the ones that I was keen on, they don't work well. So really, you're just going to have to go through and see what games work and what games don't. Now, I believe the PSP also has like a 16:9 resolution, so you can see that you get letterboxed on the top and bottom here. If you want the correct aspect ratio, that is. You could expand this if you wanted to, but I'm just going to keep it like this because I'm fine with it. And that means that you're going to be playing on a smaller screen than, say, the original PSP. Like 6:30. Okay. So maybe I better put my stream a little bit later, say like in the afternoon. For me, it would be like 2 o'clock, and then for you, it might be like in the morning sometime. So I don't know how to play this game. I remember at some stage I did buy a BlazBlue game. I can't even remember what system I bought it on. I think it might have been PSP. Or it might have been like the PSP version on Vita. Uh-oh. Okay, open the door. Okay, go. Now the PSP emulator is really cool. It tells you if something is wrong. So it says it kind of feels a little bit slow. Maybe try the frame skip. So that's a really cool addition. Okay. So I do want to show you what it does feel like if it doesn't run well. So, uh, I mean, there's a ton of games that just don't work. Like Gran Turismo runs at like 10 FPS. The virtual tennis games run pretty slow. Ridge Racer runs okay. It's like 30 FPS, but originally it was supposed to run 60 FPS. So it doesn't run as well as I'd like. Uh, and then, so Outrun 2006, um, I know a lot of people are interested in Outrun because it's been so long since we have got an Outrun game. But yeah, this doesn't run very well at all. This runs, in fact, doesn't run at all. And this might run at like 15 FPS. Just drive. Okay, let's just drive. So you can see the FPS is already tanking here to about 13, 17. As you drive further in, it just... And then the audio doesn't work. And as soon as you're dropping below 30 FPS, because these games are meant to run at a specific FPS, the audio just gets destroyed as well. So we're at about 15 FPS. Now, if you were to play this on your phone, on your Android phone, for example, if you had like any decent Snapdragon in the last few years, you'd be able to run this perfectly. So you'd be able to play this at like 2 or 3x the resolution, and this would run at 60 FPS. So the chip set in this device isn't very good. What you're really getting with this chipset is that it's under like $100, and you're getting a nice screen, nice buttons, and all the rest of that. So this is really good for, say, like a bunch of... This is really good if you want to play, say, like up to PS1 games. And that's really about it. That's what this system is there for. So that's the value aspect of this. And boy, do I really want to play this game. So I'm really hoping for a device that does PSP, Dreamcast, GameCube games. Which was why I was interested in the Odin, actually, because the Odin was going to do all of that. And maybe, you know, maybe it's still a good idea to get like an Odin Lite. But for now, I'm just going to hold off and just wait and see what other things there are. So we've picked up to about 22, 26 FPS. So actually doing a little bit better now. I wonder how it's going to do once it streams in the new level. So that's kind of what these little bits do. Like they make it long enough for them to stream another level. As you can see, it's already tanked to like 16, 18 FPS. But it's not really playable for this type of game because Outrun is meant to be 60 FPS, and yeah, it doesn't feel great. And there's no Outrun game on the PC, so it's not like I can just go to Steam and play Outrun. Well, there was an Outrun game. But overall, as you can see, the graphics are much improved from PlayStation 1. So the PSP games do take more processing power, and that's all it is about in the end. It's all just about processing power, and this just doesn't have enough to do that. Greg, thank you for joining the stream. But I'm about to finish up the stream anyway now because it's my lunchtime, and we've gone on for about an hour and a half, which is pretty nice, which is roughly what I wanted to do anyways. Just to play a few games here, just to talk with people, and just to show off the system that I put a lot of time in this week. And we'll leave it open for like maybe about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just for questions and things. Now, I played for an hour and a half, and we've used about 30%. So yeah, maybe it can do like 4.5, 5 hours on this thing. But I believe that if you're pushing the system to the limit, like if you're playing PSP or Dreamcast games, then that's going to run down a lot faster. Now, one cool thing about this device is that it has a really cool screensaver. So it will just run through videos of all the games that you have on your system. Oops. So I'll just leave that playing while I answer some of your questions, talk a little bit more about the system. Um, and so, okay, so this thing allows you to scrape all of the box art and all the videos for it and all the descriptions. And with the videos, they made a little nice screensaver. Now the thing is that I wouldn't really have this as a screensaver personally. It's a cool feature of it, like just to press select and then get into this and then just flick through all the games. Like you can just move on to the next game if you want to, just as like a bit of a guide to what you want to play next. And you can just play the game by pressing A or start. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can do that. And this is a nice like sort of like magazine style where you can just flip through all the games that you have, see what you want to play. Whoops. Let me get back into that. But yeah, I wouldn't actually have this as a screensaver because it drains the battery quite a bit. I left this to scrape all the box art and then it went to the screensaver, and then when I came back like half an hour later, it had already used like 20-30% of the battery. So it's a bit of a battery drainer to play these videos. Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you want to find hidden gems, what I would suggest is get a little bit bigger memory card. So I've only got a 64 gigabyte memory card at the moment. I am going to get a 128 gigabyte memory card, and then I'm going to put that in as well. And then I'm just going to be able to flick through all of the games and all the videos, because it's actually quite difficult to know the entire game library that is out there. So I think that would be a good way to like just check out all the different games. Greg says, sadly, playing a racing game at 15 FPS is a no-no. Pretty much. I'm surprised I played it for as long as I did, because it wasn't actually that bad, like at 15-20 FPS. But when you're actually playing the game, like you're not concentrating on making the video, it is pretty annoying. The other thing is, like, when I go through the videos of this, I'm actually surprised at the quality of the art or the quality of the game itself. Like, even though this is a Nintendo Entertainment System game, this actually doesn't look too bad. Like, Castlevania 3 looks playable with these type of graphics. I know, like, we're in this kind of where, you know, something that is 3 or 4 years old already immediately looks old, but I think in some games the art style helps it a lot. So for example, we played Advance Wars today, and Advance Wars looks fantastic, and isn't unlike anything that we would get, say, on the Switch. Like if you were to play like a 2D game on the Switch, it would kind of look pretty close to what we saw on Advance Wars. Now obviously with games like racing games like MotoGP, as you can see here, we've kind of well moved beyond these type of graphics. But I would now. Am I still on? The chat disconnected. I think I'm still on. Okay, so Circle of the Moon was so dark that I couldn't play it on my original Game Boy Advance. Like, you could hear the sound, but you couldn't see any of the graphics. So I'm very excited to get back into playing Circle of the Moon and the other Castlevania games. There's all the Final Fantasy games that would be really interesting. Now, the thing is, like, I think this would be the best way to play it on the Anbernic RG351P devices, because the performance would be really good for Final Fantasy. And I think the PSP and also the PSP versions, maybe they won't run as well because they're just on PSP. And the PS1 versions, you could play it on there. But I think the fact that this is so vibrant and works so well, the screen is perfectly fits a Game Boy Advance. I might just play the Game Boy Advance versions of Final Fantasy. They have Fire Emblem, and you'd be surprised. This is what I'm talking about when I say, hey, it looks very similar to the current 3DS Fire Emblem games. Okay, well, that doesn't quite look like 3DS, but the Battlefield does. So this would be a very similar game to the 3DS versions. So I'd be interested to try those Fire Emblem games out. There's Golden Sun as well. These were GT Advance was games that I wanted when I was a boy, but you can see that it's very outdated now. The Kirby games look very vibrant and interesting. And I would almost say that this system is a little bit more interesting than the Super Nintendo. Feels like there are more games here that I'm interested in trying out over the Super Nintendo. And Super Nintendo was one system that I didn't actually have, which I really regretted when I was younger. And I always wanted to go back and pick up a Super Nintendo. But I just found that a lot of those Super Nintendo systems, it was very expensive to buy the actual games. Like, it was like $40-50 per game, and then I just didn't feel like that was worth it. To that, I'd rather buy newer games, for example, for that money. There's the Pokemon games on this, and they look pretty nice. I think they're a little bit outdated though, so it's probably better to play the more recent Pokemon games. There's Sonic Advance, which I'm curious to try out because the little bit I played of Sonic Advance was actually very good, and the levels are very large. And you can't really see all that much, which is the downside to Sonic Advance. But I think, yeah, I'd be curious to try it out anyway. And there's 3 of those games. Now, I think it's rather interesting that these Super Mario Advance games were actually really, really good ports. The Super Mario Brothers 2 port is amazing. I had this game, beat it on the Game Boy Advance, and they brought out the best games for the Game Boy Advance. So I think this looks pretty reasonable. Super Mario World looks pretty reasonable compared to the Super Nintendo version. I still think that the Super Nintendo version is probably better to play on this device, but I don't think this is half bad. They also put out Yoshi's Island, so if that doesn't work on the Super Nintendo emulator, I'm pretty sure this is going to work well. And they also got Super Mario Bros. 3, which looks perfectly fine to me. They also have A Link to the Past. Now, I might actually play the Super Nintendo version because I think the Super Nintendo version of this would actually be better. When I was a kid, I really wanted to get these Tony Hawk games because they were isometric and I thought that looked really cool. So I'll give that a shot at some time. I did actually buy a pirated version when I was in Hong Kong for this, but it didn't actually work. Now, Virtua Tennis, I'm actually disappointed because it looks really bad. And that's about it. But I think there's a good selection of Game Boy Advance games. And I think this is a pretty cool system to play Game Boy Advance games on. You can see that Advance Wars looks amazing on this. Okay, well, I'll probably try to get the Final Fight Game Boy Advance version as well, because even though you can play the arcade version perfectly fine, it'd be interesting to see the Game Boy Advance version. Okay, So we're probably going to leave it there. If you guys have any more questions, put them in right now. I will leave the stream for another couple of minutes, and then we're going to end it there. Yeah, the menu. I really like this menu because you get really big box art, and what's sacrificed is the description, but I don't really mind about the description. And you get the video playing at a nice size, so that's why I chose this front end. You still can't see a lot of the titles here, or the full title. So when I go down to say like, Super Mario World, I don't even know what Super Mario game I'm playing, which I wish there would be an option to make the text size smaller. I mean, they give you options for just about everything else, right? So I don't see why they don't give you, like here, Super Mario Advance, they're all Super Mario Advance, and then I have to scroll through it. But it's not too bad because I can just look at the box art for that and work out what that is. So it doesn't matter too much that I can't see the title. I didn't go through Neo Geo games, but all the Neo Geo games work perfectly fine. Yeah, definitely. I think everybody should put on some sort of like menu system for a device like this. If Nintendo was smart, they'd start remastering some of those old Game Boy Advance games, but on 2D still. Yeah, they really should. I mean, they kind of do anyway. Like, they bring out a new Fire Emblem, and they're going to bring out a new Advance Wars, which was the reason I wanted to play Advance Wars today. But because I don't know how to play that game, I didn't get very far into it. But I think, yeah, they're doing that. They're putting out a lot of their older games. They're not exact ports because, see, Nintendo is very cluey about all of this stuff. They know that they don't want to bring out the old game. They want to bring out the new version. It's the same as what Lego does. Lego don't really want to release all of their old Lego. They want to make a new version of that Lego, which keeps the value of all of the stuff previously as it is. And if you really, really want that, then yes, you could get like the ROM, but there are going to be collectors that pay for that sort of thing. So they don't want to bring out like all of their old games. They might bring out some select games, like say that's Super Nintendo Mini or the NES Mini, a select amount of games that they feel like is okay to bring out again. Because there are also other considerations where some games are not fit to bring out again. There are like social issues with things. Some things that were acceptable back in the day are kind of not acceptable anymore. So maybe it could be like scantily clad women, for example, that were okay in previous games on previous box arts. It's not okay anymore. So that is why that is part of the reason why they don't bring out like just everything, and that's why they don't bring out all of those games. Say for like on the Switch, they don't put all those games out. Whereas, for example, Steam don't really mind. They just happy to have everything on that system. So yeah, Codename Car. I love the system. I'm having a really good time with it, and I think for say like $85, you can get this for $90. I think it's a worthwhile device. I really do. It's not something like the Switch or, a PlayStation. I'm not even suggesting or advocating to get this, but I honestly think like this is a useful thing for $90 because you can do a lot with it. You can tinker with it. You can put a lot of games on it. I think it's worth it. But again, the other thing, of course, would be like there are new devices coming out all the time. So it's really up to people to decide on their own when they should jump in on getting something. And that's one reason why I haven't got some of the other systems yet. Like say I haven't got the the Anbernic RG351V, which is the Game Boy version of this exact device with the same processor. I just want to see what is out there before I jump in on something like that. So if something new comes down the line, like an RG552, then I might just go for that because that's going to have a bigger screen size. And so if you wait 3 or 4 months and you want a bigger screen size, maybe that is the one to go for. But of course, that's going to be priced a little bit more. Maybe that's going to be like $150 versus, say, this thing at like $90. So that's going to be a decision that you're going to have to think about yourself. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for joining in the live stream today. I had a ton of fun playing these games, even though we didn't get very far into some of them, like Super Metroid or Mega Man. We didn't really get that far, or even Advance Wars, but I had a bit of fun with that. It's definitely a lot easier to watch a video where it's cut very nicely for viewers, and you actually get to see proper gameplay. So, um, yeah, it's definitely easier than that than to actually play it on a live stream where you're gonna have to deal with a lot of the bits in between. But I hope you guys all enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream, and I guess we'll be back with another live stream, hopefully next week. I wasn't gonna do one this week because there just wasn't much news, but decided I thought I would play some games anyways. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining the live stream, and I'll see you guys in the next one.